Today's video is all about the necromancer. We take 18 hours of my life and we convert it into this here. We managed to go all the way from level 1 to a solo Duriel torment 4 kill, which was my ultimate goal here starting this character. I kind of want to go through each class and see if it's torment 4 viable and, you know, do a solo Duriel kill. So we managed to achieve that goal in 18 hours on the necromancer. Let's get into it now. All right, immediately going into Helltides. So Helltides are amazing. We're getting all of our starter loot. We're kind of learning the build. We're feeling out skills. We're seeing kind of where we want to go. I'm not going to follow a build guide this time around. I'm just going to kind of wing it. I know I like a minion build and I know I like Bloodsurge, so we'll probably go with like some weird Frankenstein hybrid of the two. And yeah, it feels quite nice. So we're just going to get some initial levels here in Helltide and some starter loot. These chests are pretty great for both XP and gear. We managed to get enough whispers for a cache. We got ourselves to 18 and we get rewarded with a nice little weapon upgrade here. I decided to go do some nightmare dungeons for a while, get some XP. We're trying to get to level 25 so we can go do our class quest. Damage is pretty respectable. The build's feeling nice so far. Alright, there's level 25. Let's go do our class quest. Perfect. We now have access to our golem. We're just going to sacrifice it in the bone for the extra increased attack speed there. Here's the gear after level 25. Feel free to pause the video if you want to look at any specific piece for a little bit longer. Nothing crazy. It's just what I happen to get in the first 25 levels. Alright, let's do some of these tributes of growth. I've never really tried these out during the leveling process. I imagine the XP is pretty nice though. Yeah, over a full level, so that's not bad. We do a few more of those and then we go back to Nightmare Dungeons until level 35 and then we just equip all these mythic uniques. I'm kidding. I'll put them back. But we are going to go back to do more Nightmare Dungeons and level up some more. We drop this first Moni. It's pretty noteworthy. Monis right now are worth quite a bit. I think they're anywhere from 100 million to 120 million. I change my mind though, I am going to use a Shaco. I've got it laying around and swapping in and out and re-rolling tempers for health is annoying, so the Shaco is going to help a bit with cooldown and just life. Then we drop these Blood Moon Breaches. They're nothing amazing, but for early game on a Bloodsurge build, they're pretty great for some extra damage. Okay, so this is a pretty interesting little thing here I wanted to share. I've got 386 cinders, but I've only got 12 seconds left of this Helltide. So what we can do here is leave before the Helltide is over. Just leave the game. Then, after the new Helltide spawns, so like 5 minutes after the hour, it doesn't matter if it's on normal or torment 4, it really doesn't matter at all the difficulty. Go on a different character and then go back to the Helltide. It's very important that you go on a different character. Whenever we go back to the Helltide, boom, wouldn't you know it. We still have our 387 cinders, and there's still 40 minutes left of this Helltide. I did unfortunately die, so we don't need to talk about that, but there was a little bit of a loot goblin, and we opened this chest for a nice little surprise. Oh, it's beautiful. So if you see my trading guide, you would understand already, but let's show you anyway. That's 8.5 billion gold. I know it's not necromancer related, but I thought it was cool and it happened while I was making the necromancer, so I decided to add it to the video anyway. We're back up to a cool 40 billion gold. So I ran out of opals while leveling up this necromancer, so I decided, I guess I'll go do a realm walker. Nice. That ought to hold me off for a little while. Go ahead and hit level 50 real quick from this cache. No good items, but it's whatever. Finally got my cursed aura aspect after level 51 or something like that. And Butcher decided to say hello and let me test my damage on him. Just hit level 55, and I'll be honest, the damage feels pretty nice. This is hard difficulty. You continue to push on. We're doing nightmare dungeons. We're right here in the final stretch, and we get one more Moni rune. And there's level 60. Alright, here's the gear at level 60. Go ahead and pause the video if you'd like to look at any piece for a little bit longer. Overall, we're just getting percentage generic damage. We've got our Shaco for a little bit of cooldown and some life, movement speed, damage to enemies close. We've picked up a Sacrilegious. It was just kind of nice for, being lazy for the lazy's sake. We were using minions for this leveling portion of the build, and we sacrificed our Golem for some attack speed. No Paragon points in yet, and here's the skill tree if you're interested in it. Alright, here are the stats. We are max res capped, armor capped, and we got a decent amount of attack speed, getting our crit chance up. It's looking pretty good. But let's go unlock Torment 1. The power of 272 Paragon points. Alright, we're finally selling these monies that we picked up throughout the leveling process for 240 million gold. And we find our first decent Greater Affix item. Nice little Greater Affix Intelligence Amulet. So the build doesn't actually work at all without this helmet. And this is my very first Beast and Ice kill. And I am just phenomenally lucky and get exactly what I was looking for. And it's a decent roll. So we're good. Now that the build is working, and I mean it, it's working, I think it's time to get out of Torment 1. So let's go straight to Torment 2. Alright, so we find these pair of boots and we temper them up a little bit. And we hit some pretty good rolls on the tempers. So 1% off perfect on the Soulrift duration and perfect movement speed. Overall, those are some pretty nice boots. Nice. And we even hit movement speed again. I'll take it. I can't remember if I dropped this helmet on the necromancer or not, but we sell it for 1 billion gold. Max resources on a helmet with either armor or life, they sell for pretty good. So we spend some of that billion gold on this nice little upgrade here. Just a GA life one-handed mace. After that, we decided to gamble a little bit because we still need pants and again, crazy lucky and a decent roll. Speaking of crazy lucky, did you know that you can get mythic uniques from gambling? Yeah, the more you know. So the build's feeling good. I think it's about time to take it to Torment 4. So yeah, let's do that now. Pit tier 65 complete. Alright, so Torment 3 Grigori. It's pretty respectable, but definitely not ready for Torment 4 bosses just yet. So let's go level up our glyphs real quick. I mean, decent boss damage on these tier 60s. Our glyphs aren't even leveled, you know, like 46 yet, and definitely still room for improvement on the gear overall. The damage isn't terrible. Alright. All glyphs are legendary. Let's take this baby out for a spin. Here's some Horde gameplay, just to get an idea of how the game actually plays out. Basically, you're just spamming Bone Spirit over and over and over. It's draining all of your essence, you're then regaining all of your essence, your helmet's proccing, and you're doing a lot of damage, all while you're snapshotting the whole overpowered crit dynamic to be, you know, happening simultaneously. I go into it a little bit more later on, but here's a Torment 4 Grigori. Not horrible, but moment of truth. Alright, so it's been about 19 hours, and this is the character that we're ending up with. It wasn't pretty, it wasn't fast, but we completed the goal. Let's talk briefly about the items and the gear that we ended up with, and yeah, the build guide is in the description below. So I'm not going to go super in-depth with this. I will just say a couple disclaimers. This build is pretty clunky. I would not recommend this to new players, and it definitely requires a lot of micromanaging and watching of cooldowns and energy consumption and all that stuff. So if you're looking at the build, definitely take into consideration it takes a lot to actually get it to start feeling nice. And whenever you can't proc your what is it called, your Zan rune, if you can't proc it correctly and your spirit or your bone spirit misses and it goes off cooldown and all that shit, like the build really feels bad. Like you do 0 damage for several seconds until you can like attempt your rotation again. I personally would not build this build again, and yeah, I think 19 hours on this build is plenty enough for me. With that being said, if you're still convinced that you like the build, there's 2 or 3 things that really make this build work, and let's talk about those now. The Unmaker helmet is absolutely mandatory, and the Zan rune is mandatory. So what Poxan does is whenever we spend a shitload of energy, 800% of our maximum resource, our next skill cast will be guaranteed critical strike and overpower. So we basically just spam a bunch of bone spirits, and it says critical strikes reduce the cooldown by 7 seconds. So we have 100% critical strike chance. We have 78% here, but then whenever we use our corpse tendrils, we get another 24%. So basically every single time that we use our bone spirit, it's going to crit, it's reducing its cooldown by 7 seconds, and yeah, so we could just spam a bunch of bone spirits. Whenever you use a bone spirit, it consumes all of your essence. So we're spending a shitload of essence. Also, it's a macabre skill, so whenever you use these tempers here, plus 35 primary resource and plus 32 primary resource, we're gaining like 67 primary resource from there, plus we're gaining 30% of our maximum essence over time here. And we use Fist of Fate for lucky hit chance, and we have a 10% chance to generate more essence when hitting a vulnerable enemy. So we're constantly hitting vulnerable enemies. That procs more often than you would expect. And yeah, basically we're just filling up and dumping our entire essence orb over and over and over again, which effectively increases the duration of Soulrift and makes Soulrift do a shitload of damage. All the while, every time the Unmaker procs, the Soulrift does 200% of its shadow damage per second to surrounding enemies. For every 30 essence you gain while it's active, that's going to overpower and crit because of the rune interaction. So yeah, that's about it. Everything else is pretty much flexible. It is an overpower build, so you definitely want to try to use Blood Moon Breaches. It's just a huge damage increase here with 150% increased overpower damage. Enemies affected by your curses. They're all affected by our curses because we use Cursed Aura aspect. This surrounds you with Decrepify and Iron Maiden aura, and yeah, it spreads to other enemies as well outside of the little zone. But basically, you have like a circle around you, and if they walk into it, they're cursed with both those curses. And because we're using Soulrift, it's another circle. Basically, it's like Righteous Fire. It's Walmart brand Righteous Fire from Path of Exile. More damage on this aspect, but you know, again, lucky hit comes in for more primary resource regeneration, up to a 15% chance to restore 60% primary resource. Basically, you just want to fill up and dump as much as absolutely possible. We watch this little meter. Whenever it fills all the way up, it'll flash. As it's flashing, we know that we can use Soulrift. Now Soulrift, the entire duration, is going to be a crit and overpower. We spam Decrepify. This is going to reduce cooldowns. Again, lucky hit is nice again. Enemies hit while affected with Decrepify have up to a 15% chance to reduce your active cooldowns by 1 second. So we're going to spam Decrepify over and over and over because it hits as well. And then we're going to spam Bone Spirit whenever we actually want to do damage, because every time this dumps and then refills, it's doing shitloads of damage and increasing the duration of Soulrift. In a nutshell, that's pretty much how the build works. Everything else that I haven't talked about isn't really mandatory and you don't need it. I just put it on there because, you know, more damage or it's flavor. It's what I felt like the build was missing. All right, that's the build. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. And with all that being said, man, this was not as fun as I thought it was going to be. Not to get all negative and shit on you, but yeah, 20 hours almost on a necromancer after blasting on a spiritborn for like 180 hours. Absolutely felt terrible. I don't know, man. Everything takes forever to kill. This build relies on some clunky ass cheap mechanic of like snapshotting just to even compete a little bit in Torment 4. The build diversity is absolutely just a joke right now, and I'm gonna take a break from Diablo 4. I still love the game. It's my primary game. It's my main game. I'm not really going anywhere long term, but yeah, I need a break after this. I'm just really not. The 300 grind is just not gonna happen. I can't force myself to run pit for 30 hours, 40 hours, and yeah, I need a little bit of time. I hope you guys understand. Dwarven Realms is really, really fun. I just stayed up until 5 in the morning playing it for the first time, and I might make some content on that. So if you're interested in that kind of thing, yeah, keep an eye out. I'll probably post something. And yeah, I'll see you guys later. Thank you. Goodbye.